Hello, everyone. Hello. Hello, hello. Well, turn the music down. I was wrong. I didn't have allergies the last couple of days. It was the start of a cold. So your buddy Dan is sick. It's been a little bit, considering how many colds have gone through my house over the last 4 or 5 weeks. The fact that I've only now caught this one, and I think I had one other in a month and a half ago. That feels like a lot for folks that don't have children. Going a month and a half without a cold when you have kids in the wintertime is actually kind of an heroic feat, I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Doesn't matter. You guys got some questions in. I said I would answer the first 5. So I guess I'll do that. First things first, anybody watching here at the front end of the show, please do like and subscribe to the YouTube page. We want to keep growing this stuff. I don't know what sort of headway we made yesterday. I think it was a little bit less than previous days. Yeah, a little bit less. That's kind of disappointing, actually. Only three new subscribers yesterday? Yeah, that's not going to work. We're going to need to do better than that today. What am I going to have to do to make that happen? I don't know. Be better, I guess. This show's not going to be as long, and the next couple would be my guess based on the typical arc of a cold bug, because my voice just hurts. My throat hurts. I got the sinuses. It's the whole thing right now, but we'll keep it going, man. You guys know I'm going to keep my Iron Man streak alive. So we are rocking and rolling. I'm going to do the first 5 questions here. Yeah, let's do that right out of the chute. Migo is first. Migo wins the day. Does Yahoo give the players tags for this, like out or something? I believe the answer to that question is yes. They should get an out tag. I don't know if that's going to help you if you have like an IL plus slot. They haven't yet done so. But I'm guessing that we'll get something on those. I honestly, I don't know. This doesn't happen very often, and I frankly didn't write it down last time that we had a game postponed due to inclement weather. What it does do, I mean, it really screws me up. I'm in a head-to-head league where I have 3 Pistons on my team. I don't think my opponent has anybody in this game. No, that's not true. He has Porzingis, so I guess that levels off a little bit there because Porzingis is better than the guys I'm trotting out on my Detroit side. But you know what? You wear it a little bit. And then, if you're in a traditional IL league, I don't think any tag they get you is not going to help very much. So you just kind of have to hope for something small here. And, but I don't know. The true answer is I don't know. It's already listed as postponed on Yahoo. So they're that far right now. And we'll get an answer on the rest of it by a little bit later on today. Another one from Migo, going back to back here. Who was the drop in a punt, field goal, and block team between Jaden McDaniels, Kyle Lowry, Trey Jones, or DeLon Wright? Well, if there wasn't a punt going here, I would be dropping DeLon Wright. Because of the punt, Jaden McDaniels loses a chunk of his value. He's been a bit more of a decent field goal percent guy who does get blocked from time to time, so it's probably Jaden McDaniels given your build. Otherwise, it would have been DeLon Wright. Cole, I had Duran for tonight, but I had to switch out for Brandon Clark. Good move. I love both of those guys right now. Brandon Clark is a top shelf stream while Steven Adams is out. Hopefully you didn't have to drop Duran and you could just bench him. But yeah, I'm on board with that one. What would you look to trade Kawhi for before the playoffs? He has a terrible schedule. Well, it kind of depends on what the people in your league are paying attention to. There's going to be a lot of water breaks in today's show. Oh no, I dropped the cap. Because I'm fighting it right now. So I'm going to keep doing my best here, but the throat hurts. Probably should just talk a little bit quieter if at all possible. Well, Kawhi's been crushing. He's the number 1 player in 9Cat over the last month on a per-game basis, or he's tied with Nikola Jokic. He was actually number 1 for like 3 hours, and then Jokic had a monster game, and they moved back into basically a statistical deadlock in terms of overall value. Jokic probably better for the head-to-head side because his turnovers are higher, and everybody in head-to-head is pretty much punting those anyway. What would I look to trade Kawhi for? I think at this point you could aim for anything basically inside the top 18, and it would be considered relatively fair. Look for someone who has a better playoff schedule for whatever weeks your playoffs happen to be. Someone like, I don't know, Spida, Donovan Mitchell might be an interesting target. I'm a little afraid of Jimmy Butler's health stuff. You might be able to get someone like a Kyrie Irving, depending on how his schedule lines up with your stuff. I don't think that I would go any lower than like number 20 to 24 range because Kawhi's just so freaking good that he can do more in fewer games than a lot of these guys. But I think you should be able to get anything inside the top 2 rounds at this point. People remember who Kawhi is now. And that's one of the big themes for today's show. I assume you guys saw the header graphic that we had on this podcast. The Klaw cares not for your impatience. Remember, I don't do a rant here right now, but think back about how everybody had said Kawhi's season was a bust in November. And now he's the best player in fantasy basketball over the last month. And here's kind of a fun one. I'm going to tweet a bunch of these things out about Kawhi because I think this is kind of hilarious. Despite missing effectively like the first 2 months of the season, Kawhi Leonard is now number 102 by totals on the year. By totals in 28 ball games. He's, guys that are commonly enjoyed behind him. He's past Devin Booker now. No surprise there. He's ahead of a guy like a Malcolm Brogdon, who's just been sort of slowly rolling up stats all year. He's ahead of Jakob Poeltl. He's ahead of Killian Hayes, who's played in 48 ball games. Kevin Porter Jr. It's kind of amazing. He's ahead of Jalen Williams, who's played in 46 games. And every week we do this, and he's 15 to 20 slots higher. He's one more good week away from being in the 80s by totals. By totals, people. Not per game. What's up, Dan? I'm in a competitive 6-team weekly head-to-head. How competitive could it be with 6 teams? You got to add more teams if you want real competition. Is John Collins' lack of defensive categories worth holding anymore? No, in a 6-teamer, like, everybody's just starting the top 50, basically. No, I have no idea who the value streamers are in a 6-team league. I'm sorry, buddy. I've never played in a 6-team league, and I don't plan on ever doing it. And I don't mean to mock you too much, but I'm a little bit here because I know you're a buddy. You've been watching and listening to our shows for forever, so I'm going to have a little fun at your expense this morning, and I hope you're not too upset about it. Can't see my face right now. Yeah, we got to go a little bit bigger there. I have no idea. I have no idea who's on a wire in a 6-team league. I mean, the fact that John Collins is probably about to be means that you're looking at guys that are like typically 50 range. Ego says, don't forget to like the video. Was that the 4th question? I think that was the 4th question. It doesn't really matter. Will Jericho Sims let me down a second time? Hartenstein is gone. What do I do? Do I hold Sims? I never told you to pick up Sims. These are always fun questions for me. And again, I don't mean to pick on anybody. T-M. I'm going to call you Tim, even though I don't know if maybe I should be pronouncing the space. T-I-M. T-I-M. I get a little bit perturbed when folks ask me if they should continue to do something that I never told them to do in the first place. And I understand there's, 25, 35, whatever it is, fantasy basketball analysts out there. But when you're like, Dan, should I continue to hold Sims? And I'm like, what? Jericho Sims was never a guy I suggested as a pickup. I thought the Knicks would ultimately go a little bit smaller, which we saw more of yesterday. It was at the expense of RJ Barrett, though, instead of a center. I figured Sims and Hartenstein would be in some kind of timeshare, which, it's tipped a little bit in Jericho's favor, but all he does is go 2 for 2 from the field and get 11 rebounds. That's DeAndre Jordan-esque. Like fading DeAndre Jordan. I have no interest in either of the Knicks centers as a long-term solution because Mitch Robinson will be back in. They figured. I think they figured right after the All-Star break, perhaps. And At that point, it all becomes a moot situation. Now, Hartenstein played better yesterday. He's a speculative ad to see if maybe they tip things in either direction. The team looked much better with him on the court. I don't know. Tibbs doesn't feel like the kind of guy who's going to just flip it on a dime, but maybe he does. So that's why I picked up Hartenstein a couple of spots. And I have no interest in Jericho Sims, none whatsoever. I'm just going to do a few more questions here because the chat room is going buck wild. So screw it. We'll do a few more. And then, again, today's show is going to be a little bit shorter. We'll do the rest of the questions at the end. Would you drop Bogdan, Josh Hart, or DeAnthony Melton? I'm not going to drop all three of them. Bogdan is probably my drop. He hasn't been very good when Trae Young is in there. I'll stick with the other two guys. What are your thoughts on Xavier Tillman as a stream over the next 2 days because it's a back-to-back? Well, let's see. Who are the Grizzlies playing is my main question there. Let's see. I have Brandon Clark everywhere, so I can just click on his name. Portland and Cleveland. You might see Tillman get a little extra run because Nurk is big and Cleveland's big, in terms of how opponents look. So not the worst idea in the world. I still would prefer Brandon Clark, but you could probably try Tillman and assume he gets about 40 minutes over those two games. Not bad. Is Kelly Olynyk worth rostering? Yes. They're going to ramp him up. He'll probably be at full minutes by, my guess would be maybe the beginning of next week. And, he's an 80 to 100 range guy at full tilt. So, yep. How worried are we about Valanciunas? Extremely worried. He was quite bad when the team was even remotely close to healthy earlier this year. Zion and Larry Nance Jr. squeezed him a lot. Brandon Ingram is already squeezing him with Larry Nance Jr. Valanciunas had a little hot run here because everybody was hurt, but he's trending hard down again. There'll be little blips, but my guess is that he's in the 130 range going forward. See, we got a bunch of discussions in the chat room. Kenneth, I don't recognize your name. Welcome. I hope you're new. I hope you're enjoying. Everybody, remember, click like and subscribe here. I have 5 rookies on my team. Keegan Murray, Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, the Bronco, Jalen Williams, and Mark Williams. What's your take on riding rookies for the playoff push? Thanks as always. Well, they do typically get better after the All-Star break. Honestly, I kind of like them all. Jabari Smith Jr.'s had the toughest time so far this year, but Mark Williams is an interesting deadline stash. So is Tari Eason. And I think you can, frankly, make a call on this stuff, Kenneth, after the trade deadline. That's when we'll know more specifically about Eason and Mark Williams. But the other 3 guys, I don't mind riding a little bit here. Whoops, that was a follow-up to a previous thing. Thank you, dude. Yeah, I feel like dog do today, but we're going to power through here. Is it time to activate Middleton to wait till he's back in the lineup, which I assume David means the starting lineup? I'm activating Middleton when he hits 24 minutes. That's my cutoff. That's about where I would want him to be reliably inside the top 100. So that's where I'm at. Thank you, dude. I'll get better. It's a cold. It'll be okay. I just feel crummy. You shout out to my graphic I threw out the other day. It's a Futurama reference. Would you drop Gafford for Mark Williams? Yes, I think I would. Although if you can, well, the Wizards, they got their damn game postponed today. So, yeah, I think I probably would. Rest of season outlook for Tari Eason and Gordon Hayward in Roto. Who would I take? I think I prefer Eason. I still don't trust Hayward. I always had 2 decent ball games in a row here. I need to see more. He's just looked so slow all year. And then it feels like the Hornets are going to tank at some point. And Eason, if he gets unleashed, could be really, really fun. Anthony Simons for Klay Thompson. I like Klay, actually, in that one. And I'm probably going against the grain a little bit. But Klay's been quite good, basically, after his first 5 weeks of what was effectively training camp for him. Top 5 trade deadline stashes for Roto. Well, I love Tari Eason. I love Mark Williams. I like Zach Collins. I think there's a chance that Portland shakes things up a little bit as a place I would look as an unlikely source. Achua, Chris Boucher, and Toronto are interesting. These guys are very much a rung or 2 below some of the other ones. For me, it's Williams and Eason. I can't possibly use 5 slots on trade deadline stashes, and use your moves this week to save them for next week. Drop Horford or Jabari Smith to take a flyer on Avdia. Maybe. Ah, pardon me. Jabari Smith, maybe. He might get it turned around. We don't know for sure that he will. Horford's just been quietly plugging along as a top 70 guy, so I'm not dropping him. Do you think we will have an exciting trade deadline this year? No, I kind of don't, but I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. Thoughts on Carter's questionable tag to his foot? Yeah, Wendell Carter Jr. has some plantar fasciitis stuff going on. As an owner, should I pick up Mo Wagner? By the way, I want to lead the charge on not referring to players as or GMs as owners. We are managers of our fantasy teams. I don't know. There's something weird about saying we own a player. I know it's splitting hairs a tad, but let's try to veer away from that nomenclature. Yes, you should pick up Mo Wagner as a safety net, a hammock. Jabari Smith Jr. or Mark Williams? Well, at least we know Jabari Smith is going to get 30 minutes of ball game. I'll lean Jabari here. Mark, we still need someone to get out of his way. Of course, the difference is that if Williams plays, we know he's going to post fantasy value. With Smith, he's playing and he hasn't really done it yet. So Smith, to me, is the safer one just because he has those minutes locked in. Williams needs the trade to get going, but then it's basically a lock if he does. Do we have thoughts on Jaden McDaniels? Oh, Jacob, I have thoughts on everything. I have so many thoughts, but I have not the vocal strength to prepare them today. I have Kelly Olynyk and Devin Vassell hopefully coming back, considering dropping him given his fall off. And here's the second after that. Considering picking up Tari Eason for Jaden McDaniels. Honestly, I'm okay with that. McDaniels is a guy where you're not going to regret it a lot if you lose him. Meaning, he should probably be rostered and started. But he's right in that same ballpark as now what Patrick Williams is doing, where these guys are not going to be difference makers for your fantasy team. They are reliable. They've been healthy. That's good head-to-head side. But sometimes it's more fun to just take a swing. So go ahead, Jacob. Take a frickin' swing. Who's going to stop you, man? The world is your oyster. Or let me do a little promo here for everything we're doing at Sports Ethos, and then we're going to get the official podcast started. That was the first wave of questions, and a lot of you have joined us here so far in the show. So welcome to everybody. There you go. Frickin' swing. Do it, man. Love it. I am Dan Vespris. I'm going to shrink my face a little bit here. Actually, I'm going to embiggen, to steal a term from The Simpsons. I'm going to embiggen my face, but I'm sick as a dog, so I'm not going to stay this large on your screen for very long. Fear not. My personal hygiene has been better. I mean, I can see it again. I look sweaty. Ugh. I don't think I'm febrile, but I look it on camera. Ugh. Dano's looking gross. Just going to cover everything here and do the intro. Hi, everybody. Please do like and subscribe. Again, we only got 3 new subscribers yesterday, and that is very upsetting. So, like the show, even if you can't stand the fact that I sound not of full power today. And this guy, at Dan Vespris on Twitter. If you're finding this show on YouTube, not from the social media side, please do join me on Twitter at Dan Vespris. I hopefully from there kind of triage you to everything else we got going on the social side with Sports Ethos, which the logo is up there. There we go. And then all of you guys watching live, please throw questions in the chat room. I'll hit the rest of them at the end of the show. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to boot up my stuff. I'm going to turn off the music entirely, or I'll let it play for a minute here while I get my software booted up, and then we're going to get the real show started. I'm also going to send some tweets out to let everybody know we are officially rolling. Sit tight, everybody. We'll be right back. Well, the old cold bug got me. I fought it. I battled it. I did my level best. But it got me. Damn thing got me. It's not the vid. I'm gonna knock on wood here, or I don't think it is, at least. Maybe I should rapid test myself. Kids have colds. They're in schools. It's all that stuff. I fought them off for a long time. Kids have had like 5 colds in the last 2 months, and this, I think, is only the second one I'm going to catch from them. So, whatever. All of that to say, this is going to be a slightly shorter show. We're going to kind of blitz through the, was that a 5-game recap from yesterday? And give you a little preview of a slightly larger card coming up tonight. But this is going to be one of those, try to mash it in 25 minutes or so before I completely run out of strength. Don't worry, though. I'm hopped up on goofballs. I'll get us through this thing. I am Dan Vespers. This is Fantasy NBA Today, a Sports Ethos presentation. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Vespers. Hey, some of you, I think, actually took my advice and went over and followed at Ethos Fantasy BK. It's up to 92.49 meow. That, did I just say meow? I think I just did a Super Troopers bit. The goal is 10K for that fantasy news feed. It really should get there. It's a hell of a news feed. It's the best combination of speed and accuracy on a fantasy news feed out there anywhere. Ethos Fantasy BK. Couple little tidbits on the injury front as we get the day started. Not injury, I guess, but the Pistons and the Wizards game has been postponed this evening. Detroit, or the Pistons, I should say, rather, are stuck in Dallas. They can't get out after their game against the Mavericks a couple days back. The Pistons and Wizards game will be rescheduled at a later date. You are just kind of screwed until they reschedule, but if you have a bunch of those guys in your lineups this week, you're just wearing it, which is a real shame because it sounded like Daniel Gafford was going to play if those teams actually managed to get to their court. Time Lord is back, so that was a very short absence for him. That's good news. Devin Booker, a little bit of an update on Booker. He is out tonight, but they're hoping to have him back by the end of the week. That's a really good sign. They'll bring him along a little bit slowly, but he's a guy that has the fantasy profile where basically as soon as he hits 20 minutes, you can get him into your lineup. That might very well be his first game back. Typically, I don't start a guy who's missed whatever it is, about a month for him, I think, in that first game. But also, with someone like an Anthony Davis, we did it because AD can have value in 18 minutes. And for Booker, it's more like 20 to 22 minutes, but we could get him there. Tyrese Halliburton, good news on that front as well. They're hoping to have him back for this upcoming back-to-back. That starts tomorrow for Indiana. I thought maybe they'd save him and play him after the first game, but Rick Carlisle was saying that they think he can get back as early as tomorrow, which, of course, on the flip side means you can probably dump TJ McConnell. His run is done. If you were still hanging on to any of those other fringy Pacers, those guys, their runs are likely done as well. It's an interesting time because, a lot of us I know have been riding this TJ McConnell thing, and it's been a serious wave for that dude since Halliburton went down, but we always knew there was a finite endpoint on it. The question, I guess, is this good news or bad news for you individually? It means, do you have more TJ or McConnells on your team than you did Tyrese Halliburton's that went down? And for me, the answer is yes. So I'm a little disappointed, but you can probably, a lot of the time I say don't make a preemptive drop, but we've already seen, we know what the Pacers are like when Halliburton's back, and there just isn't really enough ball handling opportunity for McConnell in those spots. Let's take a look back at Tuesday again. We're going to zip through this stuff because I got the strength to get us through this show, and then I'm going to go lie down on the floor. Miami beat Cleveland in a low-scoring gross fest. 197. Difference in the ball game was free throws. Miami got 25 of them. Cleveland only got 12. Caleb Martin had a good ball game, but I don't care. The guys I was watching on the Miami side were Victor Oladipo and Kyle Lowry, who was terrible again. And I have to admit, Lowry's testing my patience right now. Even his minutes were down in this one because he just didn't look good. And he hasn't really looked good since he came back from that latest thing. He had like one or two decent ones, and he's just kind of been floating along where it almost seems like Oladipo has hurt him more than others. I'm still holding on both of those guys because here's the calculus, especially on the Lowry side, maybe a little bit less so with Oladipo because he's coming off the bench. Kyle Lowry is a starting point guard in the NBA. There are only 30 of those. And some teams don't even really employ one, so it's technically a little bit less than 30 of those. Lowry has rest of season value. He's not a guy whose value is tied necessarily to someone in front of him being out. So a lot of the questions I get on Lowry are, should I drop him for X injury streamer? And typically my answer then is no, because you generally want to veer back towards the guy who has the better long-term profile, even if they're slumping a little bit right now, which he very much is. He's in a deep, dark, disgusting slump. He is trying my patience, as I said a moment ago. So the leash here on how long before he does hit a waiver wire is not infinite in length, but it's longer than this. So I'm going to give Lowry a bit longer. Unless someone pops up that has true rest of season potential, then I think you do have to kind of, as hard as it's been, I think you have to hang on. And then with Oladipo, he's been able to float things a little bit with some assists, some steals, stuff like that. He's also kind of teetering on the brink with a healthy Heat around him right now. But I'll give him a little bit longer as well. Not so much because he's a reliable starter, but because he does have a pretty translatable fantasy game, provided his field goal percent doesn't drop below 40, because that's been pretty rough. Nothing of note on the Cleveland side, so let's move along to the next one. Lakers had a 6-point lead with a minute and a half to go in regulation. They managed to blow it. This game was so funny, and watching it as a someone who is more of a Lakers fan / Lakers analyst a little bit, dabbling in that side of things, to see Anthony Davis get called for an offensive foul at the end of the ball game on basically what would have been another final possession for LA. I could feel Lakers Twitter, but LA managed to hang on. LeBron and AD got a stop on Julius Randle at the end of regulation, and then the Lakers really looked good in overtime. Oddly, largely because Russ looked good in overtime. LeBron now just 89 points away from passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or is it 89 from tying? I forget. He's right around 90. We'll ballpark it here on today's show. We had some other Lakers that did make a little bit of noise in this ball game. Rui Hachimura, 19-9 with a block. That was that replay review block where he got a Brunson floater right at the very tippy top. He also had a couple of threes. All right, so here's the thing with Hachimura. We've talked about this plenty of times, but it's worth repeating. He's a 3-category guy. This block was uncommon for him. The field goal percent being good is, I think, something to be expected around AD and LeBron, and even Russ to a certain degree, because as bad as the decision-making is for Westbrook sometimes, he is someone who gets his teammates involved and can score. I mean, he doesn't hit that many threes either. The 2 yesterday for Hachimura, probably on the higher side for him. So effectively, he's a 3-category guy. Points, boards, field goal percent. That's typically not enough in 9-cat, unless you're very, very good at the 3 things that we're talking about. And now yesterday, he was pretty good at those 3 things, but I wouldn't say enough to say very, and I also wouldn't say enough to claim that this is something that's just going to be every game. Is he going to have 19 points most ball games? I doubt it. 9 rebounds, probably also a bit on the high side. Overtime helped. So Hachimura is someone I think I would consider more in the points league situation, where it doesn't really matter how many categories you're good at. If you're good enough at a couple of them, that's enough to give you value. Russ played better, but, I mean, Russ is Russ, so no alterations there. Troy Brown obviously didn't get 17 rebounds again. Typically for 9-cat, I'm playing LeBron and AD, and that's it. 8-cat, maybe you could look at Russ sometimes. Points leagues, yes, of course. And then Hachimura, like we talked about, he's pivots more in that direction. For the Knicks, Isaiah Hartenstein played 40 minutes of this game. Jericho Sims picked up 4 fouls in 13 minutes. He just frankly wasn't very good. And as a basketball player, he's not all that good. Sims is in there to rebound and get a couple of putback dunks. That's it. Does this situation change how the Knicks allot their minutes going forward? I'm inclined to think the answer is no. But I did pick up Hartenstein in 2 of my leagues, and I'm in a lot. I pared it down. I had like 14 or 15 last year. I think I'm down to 9 or 10 this season, so it feels like a lot less. But I still have a bunch. And I picked up Hartenstein in 2 of them. They're games cap format leagues, because this is really about just sticking him on a bench for a game or 2, or really seeing if Tibbs considers flip-flopping who's starting for his team. Because Hartenstein was a plus 10 in a game the Knicks lost by 6. Not as silly as LeBron being a plus 22. Yeah. He can't play every minute of the ball game, unfortunately. Lakers would be a lot better if he could. But, again, looking at the Knicks side, Emmanuel Quickley also outplayed RJ Barrett in this game. Barrett only saw 27 minutes. He's not someone I would ever touch in 9-cat anyway, but if you have Barrett in a points format, you just sort of roll with it. Quickley, 6 of 12 from the field, 5 of 6 at the free throw line. He was also orchestrating pretty well. Lakers were struggling with guards, which, and I hate to do this, but Pat Beverly missing this ball game probably had something to do with it. He's not what he used to be, Pat Bev, but he's a way better defender than Dennis Schroeder. Just the honest to goodness truth. Lakers need Schroeder's offense, but he's getting run over. Quickley's a guy that I've been talking about on the show since Mitchell Robinson went down, because I keep thinking the Knicks are going to have no choice but to go a tiny bit smaller, and they haven't really done it yet. Centers, Hartenstein and Sims split every center minute in this ball game, right down to the very second, 53 minutes exactly between the two of them. Hartenstein got 40 of them. Sims got the other 13. So Hartenstein is my speculative ad. Emmanuel Quickley is a guy that I've had on teams for a little bit here. I just haven't had the stones to play him on the roto side. Head-to-head, I think he's a guy you could probably just play and get what you get. So I kind of like him a little bit. Clippers, a big comeback win. They won it despite shooting 40% somehow. I guess the somehow is that their defense has gotten better here lately. Kawhi is destroying people. Oh, man. It's so satisfying because you guys know I have plenty of Kawhis, and it was really unnerving early in the year when none of it was panning out. I mean, he tried to play a couple of ball games. It didn't happen. They had to sit him for a while. I know he's going to rest on back-to-backs, and there's always going to be a couple coming up. But he's been unreal of late. He's the number 1 player in fantasy basketball over the last month. Yeah, we're talking about Kawhi Leonard right now. He's at basically number 100 by totals on the season at this point, which is crazy, considering how much time he missed at the front end. And, he's turned his season into, I believe, a success. Is there a universe where Kawhi Leonard could get to his ADP? Probably not. He simply just missed too much time at the front end. He's like 20 some odd games behind the pace car in games played. So best case scenario for Kawhi at this point is probably playing in like 55 of 82 ball games. And frankly, when you drafted him, you probably were hoping he would get to 62. He's not going to get there. He's already missed 20 games plus, so he's not going to get to 62. But if he plays in 55 ball games at what I believe at the end of the year will ultimately be a mid-first round pace, because right now, he's not first round overall on the year because of that sort of slow start when they were ramping him up. But he's number 19 on a per game basis now, and he's climbing like 2 or 3 slots every single ball game. He'll chase down Porzingis and LeBron probably in the next week. He'll chase down Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell, and Harden probably the week after that. So he'll be a first rounder per game by the end of the year. Which, again, if he gets to 55 ball games, he probably gets pretty damn close to his mid-20s for Roto, late 20s, early 30s head-to-head ADP. Not that anyone would ever draft him on the head-to-head side because you know the risks involved. But patience. Patience. My young apprentices. Patience. I would say the same thing basically about Middleton, although honestly that one scared me more because he just disappeared. We put so much on what a player does the first month of the season, but it counts the same as all the other months. The only problem, like with the first month being a slow one, is that one of our main tenets in playing fantasy basketball is you want to get off to a quick start. And that's hard to do if one of your key guys is out for the first 2 months of the year when you weren't expecting them to be. You know, it's one of the other things. Don't draft an injured player because it sets you behind the 8 ball. Well, sometimes it just falls into your lap. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And that's kind of what happened with Kawhi. It's what happened with Chris Middleton. It happens. It just, bad things fall into your lap. But you cannot sell these guys for someone who isn't a difference maker, for someone who doesn't move the ball forward for your team. It really does your team no good, specifically for games cap, but I think a little bit on the head-to-head side as well. Like, a top 100 plotter is what was being suggested as a return on Kawhi Leonard when he was out indefinitely earlier in the year. You're basically talking about Patrick Williams, who, again, has been healthy. To Patrick's credit, I think his totals value is actually pretty decent. He's number 91 by totals on the year. But guess what? You know who's 11 slots behind him? Kawhi freaking Leonard. He's going to pass him next week. So these plotters that everybody's talking about, the guys that have been hovering around that 100 mark and just sort of slowly, well, a little bit behind it, those were the names that were thrown out. Royce O'Neal, Keegan Murray, Patrick Williams for Kawhi. Patience. Those guys aren't really helping your fantasy team. Those are guys that, well, Keegan's on the upswing now, so less so him. But even as recently as like 3 weeks ago, he was a guy that everybody was coming to me saying, do I need to keep holding this dude? Don't trade your guy with first round per game upside. First round. It's different for Middleton because he's like late third, early fourth, or mid fourth round potential. Not first. It's happening with Cat right now. Now, the issue there is, does he come back by your playoffs? So I get it. It's a little bit more nuanced than just guy out at beginning of year. But these players that are top 25, they're too important. They're too important to give up on for a basement level player. Unless you're about to fall out of your playoffs in a head-to-head league, or if we're like confirmed that they're not going to be back in time. Speaking of Patrick Williams, I actually kind of like him as a head-to-head pickup. I don't know if I would use him on the Roto side. He's, again, a guy that just sort of fills a games cap. That's the guy you play if you're lagging too far behind in a games cap. But head-to-head, you could really play him every day, provided the Bulls don't have a terrible schedule in a given week. 4 games out of Patrick Williams right now is a quality week. So feel free to add him and play him in head-to-head. I don't think there's a whole lot of upside there, but he does kind of fill out the back end of your roster somewhat nicely. Middleton, we've spoken of him here in the patience element. Well, he looked really good yesterday. Chris played 20 minutes. He's very close to a spot where I would consider dumping him into a lineup. Most games he's not going to go 8 of 8 at the free throw line. He happened to have a particularly good game, which players tend to do against the Charlotte Hornets. Although, Milwaukee didn't shoot very well, but there were so many possessions. That's the beauty of playing the Hornets. There's just so many possessions that even if you don't shoot that great, you still rack up fantasy numbers. Like I've said before, I'll start Middleton when he hits 24 minutes, which is close. We're getting there. And so then you're down to basically 4 of the 5 starters. Everybody besides Grayson Allen is going to be playable on the games cap side. Those other guys for Milwaukee, they'll be low-end schedule streams once Middleton hits his stride. And for Charlotte, that's 2 games in a row for Gordon Hayward where he's actually been efficient. Still not getting steals or blocks, which he doesn't really do, but the turnovers have been lower. The field goal and free throw percent have been better. And maybe we're starting now, beginning of February. It was a long road to hoe for him. But it does look like Hayward's starting to play a little bit better. I have no regrets about dropping him in leagues 2.5 months ago. He's been awful. And I don't even think that as he gets better here, it's going to be difference maker level. He's better. Again, he's better in points leagues because he doesn't get steals or blocks. He doesn't hit that many threes. Percentages are improving here, but they've been bad so far this year. And turnovers have been bad. But it's possible that he goes on, maybe he gets back to sort of Hayward form and can post like top 80 value for a little bit. So if he's floating around on a waiver wire, this is the spot where I would pick him back up. And if you're like, Dan, no one ever dropped him in my league, I'd be like, well, they probably should have because he was doing more harm than good up until one game ago. We're 50 games into the season. If you're trotting a top 200 player out every game, he's crushing you. So I have no regrets on that front, even if he now plays a little bit better between here and the end of the year. Terry Rozier, shot wasn't falling, but the other stuff continues to be better for him. I'm intrigued. Where is Rozier now after another? I would call this one kind of a middling ball game. I didn't like the field goal percent, but the other stuff was good. He's at 94 now. There's another guy, Patience. Also, buy so very, very low on Rozier. And Denver, New Orleans was the last game of the night. No real surprises on the Denver side. I keep trying to tell you guys that KCP is actually pretty good when the team is fully healthy. He's up to number 78 on a per game basis, and he goes as the team goes. When everybody's healthy, KCP's wide open. He's going to shoot better. He's going to get more steals and blocks. He's more settled. He needs those big gravity players to make him good because it's not going to be about usage with KCP. It's about doing the other stuff, which is just easier when the team is fully healthy. He should be rostered everywhere. I'm super surprised that KCP got dropped in a bunch of spots because we were able to draw a pretty clear line between when he was more effective and when he wasn't. It's funny, Bruce Brown's the guy who gets good when someone's hurt on Denver. When they're fully healthy, he doesn't get to do very much. And it flips with KCP. When they're healthy, he's the perfect fit. In any event, the Pelicans fringe guys apparently listened to our Monday podcast and were like, Dan says we're not going to be good anymore after Brandon Ingram gets back to full strength. Well, screw you, Dan. Herb Jones, monster game. 6 out of 8 shooting, couple of threes, 5 steals, 7 of 8 at the free throw line. I don't know where the hell this came from. Larry Nance, 13 and 11 with 2 steals. Trey Murphy, 14 and 3 with 2 steals. These guys are going to fall off. We know they're going to fall off. JV, we knew he was going to fall off when guys started to come back, so that one at least was kind of expected. With Nance, I can't trust it. It's too hit or miss with him lately. Trey Murphy, same thing. A little bit too hit or miss. He's all about efficiency, which is good. But it also means that there just sort of needs to be a consistent amount he gets. Do you need to drop these guys right now? Probably not. But it's, I would think, going to trend that way. In the meantime, if you're in a games cap format, so for me, I don't have the stones to play these guys in games cap because I don't know what kind of game you're going to get on any given night. Head to head, you could probably keep playing them for now. Because they'll be probably falling a bit in that schedule stream zone. Maybe you get a couple games where they're better. Great. You catch them on the right night. That's where I sit with those Pelicans in terms of where and when to deploy them. Before we move on to taking a look at the Wednesday card, we'll do a little preview here momentarily of the 8-gamer. I just want to pop back in and say hi once more to the YouTube folks. Appreciate all you guys still keeping the chat room cooking. We've had a number of new questions posted in there. I'm sick. I'm not going to go as long in this one as I have been. We've done some hour 20 type stuff lately. This show is simply not going to go that long. But I see you guys. Please like and subscribe at some point before you leave here. 40 some odd. We'll probably get up in the 50 range before this show's done. Please do click that like button. It really makes a difference because then it pops up on more feeds and people can find us. And I'm thinking back to yesterday, doing hour and 20-minute show where I don't mean to be a butthole about it or anything, but I want to see more than 3 new subscribers in a given day because it makes me feel like should continue to sink an hour and 20 minutes into doing a live show with a bunch of questions. So please do hit that button, hit that thumbs up. I know you're out there, you're thinking about it. You're like, oh man, this seems hard. I don't really want to pick up my phone. Please do. It really does. It's all I ask. I'll just keep churning out these freebies here every day, but please do throw that back at us. And then throw stuff in the chat room as well. And follow me on Twitter at Dan Bespris if you ignored me when I said that earlier in the show. All right, let's pivot back and take a look at the Wednesday card. All righty, what do we got coming up tonight? Orlando is at Philadelphia. Jonathan Isaac is questionable. They're thinking about giving him another day off here. World's slowest rebound. That's how it's going to be. It's what we knew. No, I may have even undershot by saying I thought it would take him 3 weeks to get up near 20 minutes. It might be more than that because we're a week and a half basically into his return, and he still hasn't cleared 10 minutes. I know. On the Philly side, we'll keep an eye on DeAnthony Melton. Embiid is questionable for this ball game, and they might, I don't know, Philly just let their guard down. This is a rematch of a game from Monday where Orlando beat them by 10. I don't expect Philly to lose this ball game. I assume that Embiid plays after losing the last one. This doesn't seem like a spot where he would take the day off, but I guess you never know. Portland, you're starting to see news articles popping up about how Yusuf Nurkic is not the answer there. I thought that was a really interesting thing. Kevin O'Connor had the quote that, like, until they get serious, if they get serious, Nurk is not the answer at center. So Drew Eubanks is just kind of kicking around in the back of my head. He's droppable while Nurk is healthy, but be ready. I don't know that that's what that quote really meant, that, like, they need to go to Eubanks instead. I think the thought is they need to have just a different solution at center. But if they decide they need to go defense over offense, that's how that dynamic could shift a little bit. But Nurk is on a big contract, so I don't really know how all of that would play out. We'll see. Memphis, I think you'll see Brandon Clark plenty in this ball game because, you know, Nurk is a big dude, but he's also kind of a lumbering ox these days. Can't guard anybody. They'll just blow right past him. So I would expect Clark to have a nice ball game. I think he'll probably start over Tillman, but I don't know for sure until we get there. Brooklyn, nothing. Boston, sounds like the Time Lord is back. Marcus Smart, probably not. So you can, I would imagine, continue to go with Derek White and Malcolm Brogdon as kind of your point guard fill-in stuff. And then, obviously, you're starting your 2 big men there. Warriors, I've been keeping an eye on Dante DiVincenzo. I'm guessing it probably won't be quite enough for 12-teamers, but throw him on your watch list. Andrew Wiggins is probably the more important thing to track here. Is he finally now fully healthy? I would like to know. Minnesota, not much, really, unless somebody else sits that we're not aware of, because Slow-Mo is just a consistent stream. Oklahoma City, kind of the same. No, excuse me. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is actually supposed to be back for the Thunder here. So does that then potentially put a dent into Jalen Williams? I don't know, because Jalen Williams was playing enough before Robinson-Earl and before Poku got hurt, but his role within that unit was smaller. So keep a little bit of an eye on that. Houston's kind of interesting. Jalen Green didn't practice, and Kevin Porter Jr. is out indefinitely. So this is this marvelous opportunity, and I want to kind of stop and yell this at all of you. Make sure Tari Eason is not on a waiver wire. Do it now. Stop what you're doing and check, because you very rarely get an opportunity to pick up a young deadline stash player like Eason, who also has probably the week leading up to it to kind of get loose a little. You know, if Green sits, I know that you're not talking about like an obvious front court replacement thing, where with Eason, if someone's down in the front court, it becomes a much easier play for him. But if those 2 guys are out, there's just so much usage to go around. He'll get 25 minutes, I would think, even if he doesn't get up to like 31 when a front court player's out. 25 is enough, we've seen. And then you can just ride that straight through to the deadline. And maybe you catch, I've been trying to call this a streamer with benefits, starring Justin Timberlake. And was Mila Kunis the other one in that movie? There were 2 of those movies that came out at the same time about being friends with benefits. I think one was Ashton Kutcher and Natalie Portman, and the other one was Justin Timberlake and Mila Kunis. Well, look, streamer with benefits. It's Tari Eason for you now. Kings, nothing really. You know, the continued growth of Keegan Murray. San Antonio, Jeremy Sohan, I think he deserves one eye on him at the very least, and then whatever the hell they're doing at the center spot right now, because it, again, mostly feels like they're bubble wrapping Pirtle, but then every once in a while they just let him play. Toronto, Precious Achua stream. Utah, Kelly Olynyk's minutes as they start to ramp back up. We'll figure out when we can deploy him, but he should probably be back on rosters. Atlanta, I'm assuming Trae Young is back for this ball game, but I haven't heard anything either yay or nay on him. And if he is, that means that Bogdanovic is probably going to fizzle out the way we saw before. And then with Phoenix, nothing yet, but Devin Booker actually put out a tweet. When did that come out? Oh, 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes ago, Devin Booker tweeted, round in third. I do love a basketball player making a baseball reference to signify that he is coming back. He is almost home. So Booker's getting close, which doesn't really change much for the Suns because you haven't been dabbling in these other things. It'll probably, Chris Paul will do a little bit less, but everybody on the team gets a tiny bit better just from a vibes standpoint when Booker gets in there. It'll be a little bit of a knock on Paul. It'll be a little knock on Bridges. It'll take a little away from Cam Johnson, but all of these guys have been doing fine. And now that guys look like they're playing looser and happier again, you know, it's good news there. I don't know if it's going to be soon enough to save one of my teams that's missing Booker and Durant. And for a little bit there, we talked about this on a show, whatever it was, 2-3 weeks ago. Every once in a while, we all just come across our one team where everything just goes wrong. And on that team, Middleton, Durant, Oubre, Booker, Olynyk were all out at the same time, and Kawhi was just coming back. He was like just getting going, right? He hadn't fully hit top gear yet when these other dudes went down. What are you going to do, man? You fall super far behind in games played, or you play guys that probably don't deserve to play, or both? Yeah, that team is scratching and clawing. At least Kawhi's in there. If only that team could get fully healthy. If I had that team with Kawhi and KD going at the same time, just an efficiency juggernaut. I can't imagine that anybody would touch me in the percentages of that Roto League if I had both Kawhi and KD rolling at the same time. But, woof, just not happening. Ah, well. All right, that's your look ahead. My voice is extremely fatigued. To those of you listening here on the recorded side, I would invite you to join us over on YouTube for our shows every day of the week right now. I'm trying to get them done every day while the kids are in school. As long as they're not home sick, I should be able to get these shows out. Later today, if you happen to be listening to this show quickly after release, the great Aaron Brewski will have a live show over on YouTube. That is youtube.com/sportsethos. And one more time, if you guys want to come work with us here at Sports Ethos, hit me up on Twitter at Dan Bespris. At Dan Bespris. We are looking for folks who want to cover teams on the reality side. If you have a team that you follow religiously and you feel like you could be an analyst for that team, I'm not talking about fantasy right now. I'm talking about covering a team as a podcaster, social media, whatever, combo platter. Hit me up on Twitter at Dan Bespris. We'd love to work with you. We got a few in the hopper already. The response has been really good from these recruiting pitches, so I'm going to throw it back out there one more time. Maybe a couple more this week. And then we'll talk more about fantasy recruiting probably starting next week. Okay, I need more water. I'm at Dan Bespris again on Twitter, DanBesbris. Make sure to go bookmark our trade deadline live show. That's just 8 days from now, 7:30 in the morning Pacific time. We're going early, baby. We're going to get every damn bit of news on that 5-hour deadline show. Ooh, it's going to be good. All right, have a great Wednesday, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning. So long for now. Okay, YouTubers, hang out with me here. First of all, let me get a few more likes there. Come on. We're at 28. I know not all of you are live right now, so hopefully some of you are and are hearing me and are going to take this to heart. I do really need it. I, personally, we at Sports Ethos, we need you guys to hit that like button. It's critical in our growth. And then obviously subscribe, because I'm working my tail off to try to make this thing work. Let's switch over to the player rank page here. And let me scroll up to see where we left off. I believe the last comment was, frickin' swinging, brah. There we go. Can you guys see the rank board? Not that great, huh? It's a little small. Ah, well, I'll do my best. From the new potential ad centers list, Gafford, Duran, Williams, etc., who provides the best rest of season roto value? Well, Jalen Duran has a starting job, so he's the easy choice there. Gafford, we don't know what his role is going to be now that Porzingis is back. Mark Williams is probably my second favorite on that board, because if Plumlee gets moved, he gets to rocket boost way up the board. I'm trying to sort through the chat room. I like that you guys are chatting with one another, but it does make it harder for me to figure out what's a question and what's people just talking to one another. By the way, if you're still watching and there are almost 50 of you still here, you can throw a question in the chat room. More than happy to answer it. And I'd love to hear from new folks. Mitzo, I think you might be new, or maybe first question. What's the old expression? Long-time listener, first-time caller. Let's see here. Mr. C, you're not a first-timer. Is Duarte a hold through the deadline in case Buddy Hield gets moved? No, I don't think so. I don't like Duarte's fantasy game all that much. He's more points league friendly for what that's worth, because, you know, it's popcorn stuff. It's points, a couple boards, a couple assists. It's mostly just scoring. A low efficiency number. I think even if Buddy gets moved, you're going to see extra Neesmith, extra Nembhard. Yes, Duarte will get to do more stuff. I just don't think his job is set in stone to where he becomes a 12-teamer. It might be a 14-teamer in that spot. What's your rest of season outlook for Rui? I like the points league note here you've got, but 8-teamer, he won't make it. I think he's probably a points league 12 to 14 range kind of guy. Thoughts on Obi Toppin if he is traded to a team that plays him close to starters? I mean, if he gets starters minutes, he's an automatic add. I don't know what team would trade for him and then immediately drop him into 30 minutes a ball game, unless it's like a strict rebuilding team. Like a contender's not going to give Toppin 30 minutes a night. If a contender wanted him, it would be to play some backup 4. So then you think, what kind of tanking team would look at Toppin and say, oh, that's a guy we want to go build around? I don't think Houston would do it. I mean, what do these teams really want to give up for? Like, how high would they have to be on Toppin to go try to snatch him away from the Knicks, who refuse to play him under basically any circumstance? I'd assume that, you know, someone like a Bones Highland, who we're hearing about, wants to go to a place where he gets to play more. Like, that's more intriguing to me, because there might still be a team out there that's like, you know what, let's give Bones crap ton of usage and see what happens. So throw Bones on the list behind, you know, Eason, Mark Williams, as I turn my heating pack back on. I'm a beat up old man today, guys. So no, I'm not super interested in Toppin. I would rather look at someone like a Bones, or even an Emmanuel Quickley on the Knicks, who I've already said I've got on some head-to-head teams. You know, if he gets moved, probably to a better spot. Honestly, somebody that goes out and gets him, that's a they want him kind of thing. I don't see it. Toppin's been in the league a couple years already. He's fine, but I don't think teams look at him and think, oh, we're going to be able to build around this dude. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just not the feeling I get from the league. Thank you for that, Kirk. Dan, your vids are my daily dose of serotonin. I would also say, Kirk, you probably need to find more things to do in your day. This is me. I'm a self-deprecating fellow. If this is the highlight of the day, I'm grateful and I'm flattered, but we all need to do better. Thank you, buddy. That's very nice of you. I can't read this name. Yikes, I'm late. Jabari or Olynyk rest of season? It's a really good question, because they're so different. So different in, like, what we expect. Dude, the Jazz... I don't think the Jazz are going to pull the plug, by the way. You know, they've made it this far, hanging out at the edge of the play-in tournament. It feels like they're just going to keep trying. So I think Olynyk plays down the stretch, which makes me lean his direction because if he gets starters minutes, which what he was getting most of the year, minus foul trouble and injury, then he was a 75 to 100 range dude, and we knew it. Where with Jabari Smith, you're still kind of just hoping, and here, I'll put it up on the board here. Where's Jabari at this year? 155. And a lot of that is this number that I'm hoping you guys can see me highlight on your screen. No, you can't see me highlight it. Confound it. I was highlighting not his name, but his field goal percent, 38.7. My hope is that would come up because he's averaging a block, 0.6 steals, 7 rebounds, 1.5 3-pointers. There's actually a lot to like about Jabari Smith's fantasy game, but something does need to dramatically improve for him to get to where Olynyk will likely be without doing anything at all. So I'll go Kelly. Jason, Dan, salute for insisting managers over owners. Absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to make a big stink in the community about it. I just think it's the better way to refer to it. We don't own these players. We are their managers. If you wanted to refer to it as shares, if you want to refer to them like a stock, I'm okay with that. I'd still think that's a little bit weird. But we're the managers of a fantasy team. We're the GM, actually. We're the GM of a fantasy team because you're dropping and picking up guys. Nobody owns anybody. Ox Reporter just tweeted that Trey says he is likely to go. Beautiful. Thank you, Dem Birds, with your Atlanta Hawks logo. Figured you'd be all over that. I figured he was going to go. It didn't seem like a big thing. They're on a tough little roadie, which is good because considering all my Pistons just got ruled out in my head-to-head league, I need Trey to be in there. Is Mo Wagner a speculative ad with Wendell Carter Jr. potentially aggravating the foot thing? Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I didn't tweet anything about it because I wanted to get a little more information on Carter Jr. They've been a little bit typical for, every real team right now to be cryptic with their injury reporting. I was hoping we'd get more information on how severe this aggravation is for Wendell Carter Jr., but last time he went down, Mo Wagner started and was really, really good. I think we can probably wait until a little bit closer to game time. I'm guessing Wagner's been flying under the radar because he really hasn't been involved but for basically this last ball game since Wendell Carter Jr. came back. So, I don't think there's a big rush. Mo, he's only 22% roster. It did go up after yesterday's better ball game. I think you could probably wait until later today if you're in a day of moves league to find out if Wendell Carter Jr. is playing. And if he's not, then yeah, maybe at that point you take the plunge. Orlando still has 3 games left this week, tonight, Friday, and Sunday. Maybe you get 3 good ones out of Wagner. He's had a couple good games in a row. But if he's starting, yeah, absolutely. And then on the Roto side, you could pick him up immediately if you have something you could drop and kind of go from there. So that's a good point. We didn't talk about that because it wasn't obvious from the box score on Monday that he was out because of injury, but it came out after the ball game. They were talking about how his foot hurts, and then we got more info on it yesterday. So that's a good note. Yeah, Mo Wagner is an interesting speculative ad also. Take on Mark Williams. I'll assume that's Mark Williams. I really like him. He's my favorite trade deadline stash because it feels like Plumlee has like a 50-50 shot of getting traded. Maybe a little less, maybe like 30 to 40% chance of getting traded. And if he does, Mark Williams is basically a lock to be fantasy good the rest of the way. So big fan. If you can squat on him for the next 8 days, I would do it. The problem, of course, is that you're only going to get like top 150 kind of value over these next 8 days. But in my estimation, it's probably worth it. Just pretend like he's a guy that you had all year that's slumping right now, and treat it like that. Eduardo, hey Dan, Slow-Mo and Keegan Murray are my worst players. Who would you drop to create a streaming or deadline stash spot? I don't know that you need to. If you've got a good team, you don't have to trade deadline stash. I know it's fun. There's sort of the shiny new object thing going on there, but there's no guarantee that whatever you pick up is going to be better than either of those guys. If you really want to, it would be Slow-Mo. because then you're assuming that Karl Anthony Towns is back by like, I don't know, a month. So what does it cost you to lose a month of slow-mo? Are you able to fill that roster spot with someone equally useful? So that's the direction. It wouldn't be Keegan. It's slow-mo or nobody. I probably lean towards nobody, but if you want to just, there's the fun element of it. Dr. A always talked about how fantasy should stay fun, and sometimes I think my pedantic style of playing does take a little bit of that out. So if you want to have fun, it's slow-mo. New follower here. Hey, what's up, dude? I love the new ones. I want to hear from all the new folks. Get in there, man. Get in the mix. I was the one who took the big swing with KP for Scotty and Capella. Hopefully the Wizards game will be rescheduled soon. Yeah, I mean, it will be. They're going to have to make it up at some point. It's annoying on the head-to-head side because you expect your guys to play a number of games in a given week. It's going to make your team quite formidable in the week where they have an extra game, provided he doesn't rest that one. And on the road side, you just sort of don't care because, like, a game's a game's a game. But I have no problem with that trade you made. It was a big swing. It's a fair trade. Scotty Barnes has been playing better lately, and if Anunoby gets traded, Scotty probably maybe stays more in that 60 range. Capella's kind of 40, and then Porzingis is top 20. It's perfectly fair. I'm okay with it. I have Zach Collins, Drew Eubanks, and Mark Williams hoping to hit jackpot. What do you think about those three? Well, I just talked about Mark Williams a moment ago. Drew Eubanks is interesting because we now, as I just mentioned, are kind of hearing that there's a little bit of sourness in Portland on Nurk. Collins is kind of like, he's probably the most likely of the three to take a fantasy step forward at the deadline, but I don't know if it's far enough. He's like top 90 range guy when he gets that step forward. Eubanks would probably be in a similar spot, maybe 80 if he gets a starting job in Portland. And then Mark Williams is one where you're like, well, if this guy starts and he plays 26 minutes in a timeshare with Nick Richards where it's like 26, 22, Mark Williams could be a top 60, 75 range guy. He has the best fantasy profile of the three. So that's where I set on all of those three guys. Steve Sloan is Joker for JJJ and either Trey or Garland or Brunson, a reasonable trade. Rotoliga need to compete in blocks. Oh, man. I'm inclined to say no. Because, and you guys are looking at this screen right now that I'm showing you, the player rank page. Let me shrink my face for a minute. And I'm going to take the question down so you can see the full page here a little bit better. The question again was Nikola Jokic for JJJ and either Trey or Garland or Brunson. Trey, Garland, Brunson are all in this range here that you guys can see on your screen, which is effectively between Garland's at 38, so pretty much 40 to 55 is the range we're talking about here. Here's Brunson at 48. Here's Trey at 52. Call it the 40 to 50 range, just if we want to shrink it down. This column here, value listed on the Basketball Monster page, is listing the intrinsic value of this player against a league average fantasy play. League average being inside, basically, like you're looking at a top 200 here. The guys that are doing an average amount are in the 70 range. Those are the guys that are like good and would go run middle of the road if you had all of them on your team. So Trae Young, 0.08 is the number here. Brunson, 0.11. Garland, 0.20. JJJ, 0.55. Jokic, 0.96. It feels like Jokic and JJJ are close because it's number 2 to number 12. Only 10 spots separating them. Feels close, right? It's not. The difference in value, just looking from that one number, is this dude, Freddie VanVleet. A mid-second rounder is the difference in value between JJJ and Jokic. And we're talking about basically fourth rounders. So technically, the answer is you're not getting enough. However, literally, as in real life, if that trade actually made your team better, you do it. Personally, I don't think I'd trade Jokic to anybody for anything. I would try to compete in blocks in some other way. Take someone farther down your board. I don't know if you have somebody who's in like the 40 range. Go get Clint Capella and his 1.3 blocks per game. Or You're not going to get Claxton. Maybe you could get Brooke Lopez or Claxton if you had somebody in the 20s. If you want to work your way farther down the board, you could try to trade for Mitchell Robinson and stash. He was at close to 2 blocks per game, but he was in the 50s. I think you work a little bit more around the edges. The blockbuster move right now, unless, like, if we're talking, and Steve, I don't know if you mentioned it's Roto. He said it's a Roto league here, so I'll throw that back up there. If you have enough of a lead built in field goal percent, in assists, in things that Jokic is so dominant at, rebounds, frankly, then maybe you strongly consider it. But for me, my teams that have Jokic are built around what he does. I can't afford to give him up. Even if I'm getting points back in another department, it's just too much. For one night and one night only, Cam Johnson versus Atlanta or Jordan Poole at Minnesota. I'm going to go Cam. I think Wiggins being back for the Warriors has put a little dent into Jordan Poole. Big fan. Keep it up. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you. Last question. I'm running out of gas here, guys. I made it an hour 15. Please like and subscribe on your way out as I go to collapse upon the ground. Do you think Brandon Ingram's value increases when Zion comes back? No, actually. It'll go down. Zion's going to do more. I mean, it'll probably level off. Ingram is like a 50 to 65 range guy. There was that one year where his defensive stats were weirdly inflated, but that never really stuck. Where the hell is Brandon Ingram right now on the board? There he is, 81. It'll be better than that because he's not going to shoot 44%. But everything else is pretty much what it is. So expect this to be Ingram and adjust 44%, probably up to more like 47 as everything settles. And he'll be, my guess would be in the 60s is the rank for Ingram going forward. Thanks, everybody. I hope I'll talk to you guys over on social media. I'll make my Twitter handle a little bit bigger there so you guys can see it. At Dan Besbris, I can see some of you are already leaving, so I'll wave bye-bye. Please do click like before you close your tab or window or app or whatever you're watching this on. We're stuck at 34 likes. It's got to be higher than that. In the mid-50s, we almost got near 60 of you watching. And please do, if you haven't already, hit subscribe. We're going to try to do this all the time, and I really hope that it is useful for you all. And hit me up if you guys want to chitty-chat on Twitter or come work with us here at Sports Ethos. That'd be a lot of fun. Somebody actually hit me up mid-show about covering some Minnesota teams. That'd be cool. I see you, Corey. Anybody else? Ooh, he's a math teacher. Ooh, I like. Come on, come hang out with us at Sports Ethos. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, so long for now, everybody.